You're listening to the Ask Drone U podcast. You ask, we answer your drone questions. Whether you're here to turn your passion into profit or you simply fly for fun, we're a community of learners and teachers who aspire to achieve greatness. We are
Drone U.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Ask Drone U. My name is Paul, and I'm here with Haye from Drone DJ to give you this week's drone news. Haye, welcome to the show, my friend.
Welcome, and thank you, and Happy New Year, by the way. The first drone news show in the news year.
That is true. Happy New Year to you as well. I know you are still celebrating the new year on the other side of the pond, but you'll be back soon.
Exactly. And talking about ponds, the first story that I'd like to cover today is about a bridge in England. It's the Severn Bridge that connects England to Wales, and somebody actually scaled that bridge to fly his drone from the top of the bridge. Now, of course, the police stepped in right away, especially after the whole fiasco that took place at Gatwick Airport. Everybody was super sensitive. They shut down the bridge, all the traffic. And as the guy came down voluntarily, he was arrested right away. So I thought that was interesting that right after the whole Gatwick story, there's another one in England where things go a little crazy.
Not only do they go really crazy, if that was in America, I could totally understand the justification for that pilot. Because in America, you're allowed to fly 400 feet AGL, right above ground level. So if you take off from the bottom of the bridge, you're only going up to maybe 400 feet. Whereas if you take off from the top of the bridge, you're going to get an additional couple hundred feet to fly. So, I mean, it sucks for that guy, but I totally get it.
Maybe that's what he was thinking too. Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? In other drone news this week, it looks like the government shutdown is affecting a lot of drone pilots in the industry, as some federal testing centers have actually shut their doors to Part 107 recurrencies and Part 107 tests. Although we have heard some reports, Haye, that there are some federal testing centers actually giving out the tests themselves, but it has affected things like registration and some other like waiver approvals and whatnot. So there are some effects still going on as we enter day 14 of the U.S. government shutdown. Now, this has also brought about some other fears concerning the FAA Symposium that is coming up on February 12th through February 14th in Baltimore, Maryland, which is supposed to be showcasing many new systems that the government plans to deploy and launch to allow things like beyond visual line of sight flights, in addition to flights over people. So really excited to see whether the symposium actually happens or not, Haye, as I have heard that the UAST FAA meeting has been moved to the FAA Symposium.
Yeah, and this is a big one, of course, because a lot of drone experts or drone industry specialists are looking forward to this symposium. So we're definitely hoping that it's still going to take place. I think you got an email earlier today that referenced that it would take place. So hopefully they get their act in order, and we'll see each other in Baltimore and learn a lot more about what's upcoming in the drone industry.
I'm hoping so as well. I did get that email from AUVSI this morning, which is a private organization that, for whatever reason, the FAA teamed up with to host these FAA symposiums, which really do showcase what's to come in the legislative arena when it comes to UAS. I will say, if you are a drone service provider, we do want to see more small businesses attending the FAA Symposium. If you want to go, sign up before January 14th so you can get that discounted rate. But Haye, what else do we have in this week's drone news?
Yeah, another one from Samsung, actually, that happened at the last day of last year. They filed for yet another patent, and this one is a foldable drone where if you want to fold the legs of the drone inwards, you actually have to extend the drone, it seems, based on the drawings of the patent. The interesting thing, of course, is that this is, I believe by now, the 16th patent we've seen from Samsung, the electronics giants. The real question is, are they ever going to build a drone? I mean, I would think that Samsung would be a company that pretty much would have all the knowledge and expertise in-house to build drones. But are they really going to build a drone? And are they going to be a competitor to DJI? I certainly hope they would, because we can use some competition in the industry. But then again, yeah, we don't know for sure. It may just be another patent, similarly to what Amazon does, and these patents may never materialize.
Yeah, it could be really interesting though. Like you say, Samsung does have the resources and engineers to be able to pull something off. And I will say, although DJI does have a firm grasp on the consumer market, it really seems like the enterprise or commercial market really hasn't been solidified yet.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think DJI being the monopoly player in this market, it's a great position to be in, perhaps, but it also makes them vulnerable and it also makes them a target. And I think if anybody would be able to put up a fight to DJI, a company like Samsung may just be it.
Definitely. Couldn't agree more. Well, in other news, it looks like DJI is making some improvements to their equipment.
Yeah, for sure. The DJI Mavic 2, there's been a number of improvements actually to make this a better drone. And we've heard stories before where the rumors were that DJI sometimes rushes their products to market. And there's been cases where it only took them about 6 months to get a project from an idea all the way to a product launch. Now, we don't know exactly how much time was involved in the development of the DJI Mavic 2. I mean, we've heard stories that they went back to the drawing board right after the launch of the original DJI Mavic Pro. However, with the firmware updates, DJI has been able to make quite a number of improvements for the DJI Mavic 2. Most notably, they've improved the obstacle avoidance. So previously, only when you were flying in a slow tripod mode was the side obstacle avoidance activated. Now it's pretty much active in all flying modes. So that's a really nice addition to make flying your drone a little safer. They've done some other things where the C1 and C2 buttons are now customizable. So you can actually turn obstacle avoidance on and off right from your controller without going into any of the menus. They've increased the storage capacity to 24 gigabytes, unfortunately only on the DJI Mavic 2 Enterprise. As of yet, we haven't heard anything whether they will increase the storage capacity on the DJI Mavic 2 Zoom and Pro models as well. Currently, they have 8 gigabytes, which is nice as a backup, but I don't think that's quite sufficient. Stepping up to 24 would be a big improvement for sure. And then the last thing they improved is the precision landing. Now, this is a feature that personally I don't really use all that much, but they've made it more accurate and improved it, which of course is still a good thing to do.
It's funny, I wonder if I'm one of the only pilots that really doesn't like precision landing, as it completely changes the gains and expos when you get within a few feet of the ground. And look, if you're trying to land quickly or promptly due to some error or battery issues, it really causes the aircraft to drop and really hard land. So I'm not a big fan of the precision landing, but I will say I hope also that the other Mavic 2s do get the 24 gig improvement. I think that would be significant. But that's really good news. It sounds like in other drone news this week that Pennsylvania has actually added a new unmanned aircraft law.
Yeah, it's called the unlawful use of unmanned aircraft, and it's really designed to prevent people from using their drones as peeping toms and kind of invading on people's privacy, trying to take pictures or record video. Now, of course, we've all seen plenty of stories where events like those did take place. Apparently now, with the improved drones that have been coming out, specifically the Mavic 2 Zoom, you're able to, of course, zoom in on windows, bedrooms, backyards, and whatnot. And apparently in Pennsylvania, people have become pretty anxious about this. And this law was drafted a couple of months ago, but now as of January 12th, it will actually come into effect. So be warned, if you do live in Pennsylvania or you plan on flying there, then be careful what you do. The police, of course, still has to determine who the drone pilot is and whether flying the drone and taking pictures or video footage of other people was done intentionally. But if so, you may well be looking at a fine.
It's very interesting. I would be surprised if this law was not challenged in an appeals court of some sort, as I believe that the privacy that people think that they have versus the actual federally mandated privacy is significantly different. In fact, I believe that the law is called the reasonable right to privacy, which essentially means, and in a recent Supreme Court case, that if you have your blinds open at your house, you have no reasonable right to privacy. If you walk outside, whether it's in your backyard or not, you have no reasonable right to privacy because you essentially, put on clothes or do these things to get ready to be outside. And that was really prominent in that case in New York City that didn't involve a drone, where a guy was taking pictures from inside of his high-rise apartment of females who were in their high-rise apartment but had the shades open, and the judge actually ruled it was not an invasion of privacy. In regards to the Pennsylvania law, I think there are a couple good things, a couple bad things. Number one, it does implement a precedent that local counties and entities in Pennsylvania cannot create their own drone laws, essentially takes the federal preemption down to the local laws for, I'm not sure really what reason, other than to make it clear. I will say that I like the provision in the law that says they must prove that it was intentional and knowingly violating privacy, although that could be very vague and cause problems for pilots, especially when there is no provision in the law whatsoever to handle cases where it's a false claim against the pilot. There's absolutely no repercussions whatsoever. I think this is a very poor law. The only good news is, the advancement of the preemption clause from the FAA.
I would agree. I mean, if anybody is, let's say, arrested because of flying the drone and suspected of invading somebody else's privacy, it's going to be very hard to prove if that actually was the case. And like you said as well, there is this thing about expecting privacy. And if you leave your curtains open or you're outside in your front yard or your backyard, can you really expect to be private there or have any kind of privacy? I think nowadays it's becoming more and more difficult.
Especially difficult when you're holding around the best spying device in the world, which happens to be right here. So anyway, what else do we have in drone news this week, Haye?
There is a movie coming out, supposedly. The Drone, it's called, and it's a horror movie of a rogue or possessed DJI Phantom 3, apparently. The original footage apparently goes back to 2015. I found another clip where there's already footage in there. So this movie apparently has been in the making for quite some time. Now, supposedly it's going to come out early this year at a film festival. Yeah, it's a Phantom drone that's possessed by a serial killer, and the drone, of course, is going to go after a nice couple, a newlywed couple that just moved into a house. And you can already imagine all the kinds of horror that a drone, of course, can cause. So if you look on Drone DJ and you see the first reactions of people, of course, are very skeptical about whether this is actually a quality movie. I have my doubts as well, but hey, I guess somebody has to be first with this, right?
Yes, someone does have to be first, but hopefully the internet and Rotten Tomatoes will shut it down. It's that's unfortunate that they're perpetuating that. It's also unfortunate that people really focus on punishing a tool rather than the person. Anyway, I don't need to get into it. What other news do we have this week, Haye? Something that may delight us on the negative news of a drone horror movie.
Well, let's get right to the newest news that we have on Drone DJ. There's somebody who put together a DJI Mavic 2 Zoom and customized it to house a FLIR boson camera as well. So the whole idea is to keep the foldable drone package from the Mavic, but now upgrade the thermal camera and basically create a mini Matrice 210 with a Zenmuse XT2 camera on it. Unfortunately, we only have 2 pictures. I haven't been able to get in touch yet with the person who made this drone. But if this is something that they can actually customize and produce on a somewhat larger scale, then this now may become the ultimate unofficial DJI drone for search and rescue missions, I think.
Wow, very cool, very interesting. Well, it looks like between Samsung entering the market, if they did enter the market, I would just say that I think it's something that is really exciting as far as competition is concerned. And with that, CES is next week, and we could be seeing new drones from multiple manufacturers, some that may actually be finally making their claim to fame and becoming valid competition to DJI. And I'm personally excited. I hear something is coming out with Intel. I hear something is coming out with Autel. I also hear that there are some new, the new Land Rover of drones is supposed to be coming out from Britain. So I'm very excited to see what's going on.
Yeah, we'll be covering CES 2019 for sure. I know you're going to go. I'm going to try to be there as well. We'll cover it on Drone DJ. I know that DJI is going to showcase the DJI Mavic 2 Enterprise at the event. So if you want to get some hands-on experience or see that drone in person, then at least you can. We've heard rumors about the DJI Pro remote controller that it now likely is not going to be at CES. Earlier reports were that it would be introduced there. Now it seems that there are issues with some components as well as the supplier not being able to meet production targets. So we may not see that at CES, unfortunately. There's also rumors about a DJI Ronin S Mini. So that may be another surprise for us at CES 2019.
It would be a real surprise. I would be really interested in that, as the Osmo Pocket kind of disappoints with the high expense of accessories to really make it the Osmo that we know with the wireless interface and the mount and whatnot. So that's going to be really, really, really interesting. Well, Haye, is there anything else that we've missed in drone news this week?
No, there's some smaller stories on our site, but I think with these topics we've covered all the highlights. And we're looking forward to next week and see what news is going to come out of Las Vegas.
Could not agree more, my friend. Well, Haye, thank you so much for joining us on the show again today, and look forward to hopefully seeing you at CES.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Well, guys, that's going to do it for our show today. Thanks again for listening. Leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you download the podcast. Let us know how we're doing. You like the news episodes? Do you not like the news episodes? What would you like to hear us cover? Thanks again for listening so much. My name is Paul. His name is Haye, and you're watching another drone news episode from Ask Drone U.